Out here, it is only you, and the sun is going down. No shelter waiting anywhere. No fire. No other soul for miles. Nothing in this whole landscape was built to keep you alive. How long would you last? Be honest with yourself. You have no claws and no fangs. You cannot outrun almost anything that wants to eat you. Your skin is bare, your night vision is poor, and a cold night without shelter could kill you. You cannot smell water from a distance, and you cannot sense a predator creeping up behind you. You have no venom, no armor, no shell, no burrow, and no herd to disappear into. You are not even strong for your size. By any fair measure, you are one of the softest, slowest, most defenseless large animals on the planet. Days. That is the honest answer. Out there alone, you would last days. And yet, you are the direct descendant of a creature this fragile, that walked straight through crushing ice ages, outlasted erupting supervolcanoes, shared this planet with other kinds of humans who were stronger than us, and are now gone, and once came so close to vanishing that our whole species may have shrunk to a few thousand individuals, and still, somehow, was never finished off. So here is the mystery for today. If a human is this helpless, how did nothing, not the cold, not the predators, not the plagues, not even near total extinction, ever manage to wipe us out? Here is the story we love to tell ourselves. We survived because we are the mightiest animal that ever lived, the brilliant apex predator, the king of every food chain, the creature so powerful that nothing could touch us. We won the whole planet by being the strongest and the smartest, and everything else got out of our way. That is almost backwards. For most of our history, we were not the hunter, we were the hunted. We were not powerful, we were prey, soft, slow, and easy to kill, hiding in fear from things with real claws and real teeth. And we were not many. There were long stretches when our kind could have fit inside a modern town, teetering on the edge of non-existence. We did not survive because we were strong. We survived, in the end, because we were weak, and because being weak forced us into the one strategy that beats everything else on Earth. Not strength, not speed, flexibility. And it is a strategy you are still running today, quietly, probably without ever noticing it. Let's start with just how close it got, because most people have no idea. Hidden inside the DNA of every human alive today is the fingerprint of a disaster. When scientists read our genes, they find something startling. For a species now numbering in the billions, we are all shockingly similar to one another, far more alike, genetically, than you would ever expect. Two chimpanzees from neighboring forests can differ from each other more than two humans taken from opposite sides of the planet. There is only one good explanation for that. At some point, the number of humans got terrifyingly small. The population was squeezed down to a tiny handful, and everyone alive today descends from those few survivors. Some researchers have tied one of these near misses to a colossal volcanic eruption called Toba, around 74,000 years ago, which may have plunged the world into a brutal volcanic winter. And a striking recent study of our genes argues that far earlier, around 900,000 years ago, our ancestors may have crashed all the way down to somewhere near 1,000 breeding individuals, and then stayed that low for tens of thousands of years, one bad winter away from the end of everything. Now, I want to be upfront with you. Both of these ideas are debated, and not every scientist agrees on how severe these bottlenecks were. But the basic message written in our blood is hard to argue with. At least once, and likely more than once, our species stared extinction directly in the face, and blinked first, and lived. Every person you have ever met is descended from that tiny band that made it through. You come, quite literally, from the ones who did not die. And extinction was never short of weapons to try on us. Run through the gauntlet our ancestors faced. There were the predators, the big cats, the hyenas, the cave bears, all faster and stronger than us, that hunted early humans as a matter of routine. There were the ice ages, vast and merciless, locking the world in cold for thousands of years at a stretch, and killing off countless species that could not cope. There were droughts and famines that emptied landscapes of life. There were the eruptions, and the sudden violent lurches in climate. There were diseases that swept through with nothing to stop them. And there were even other humans, rival species, some of them stronger than us, some with brains every bit as large. Any one of these was capable of ending the human story for good. Together, across hundreds of thousands of years, they should have. Something as soft and as slow and as scarce as us had no business surviving that list. And yet, here we are. So what on earth did we have that all of them could not beat? Try to stand inside one of those moments for a second. A small band of humans in the depths of an ice age, the world locked white and lifeless all around them, the temperature far below anything a bare human body can survive. No thick fur, no burrow, no winter store of fat like a bear. By every rule of nature, they should be dead by morning, and yet, in the morning, they are still there, huddled together around a guarded fire, wrapped in stitched animal hides, alive on a continent that is doing everything in its power to kill them. That picture, repeated 10,000 times over, is the story in miniature. The first answer is the least glamorous one, and it is a phrase you have probably had thrown at you as an insult. Jack of all trades, master of none. We are the ultimate generalists, and it turns out that is the best hand you can possibly be dealt when the world keeps trying to kill you. Think about what specialization means. A polar bear is a masterpiece, perfectly built for one frozen white world. But that perfection is also its trap. Take away the ice, and the masterpiece is suddenly in terrible trouble. Nature is full of these exquisite specialists, each one flawless for one narrow set of conditions, and each one doomed the moment those conditions change. And when the climate lurches, which, over the span of our history, it did again and again, the specialists are always the first to fall. We are the exact opposite. Our bodies are almost aggressively unspecialized. We are not built for the cold or for the heat, for the mountains or the coast, for any one climate. And that plainness, that lack of any specialty, is a hidden superpower, because it means we are not chained to any one world. A human being can live in scorching desert, in frozen tundra, in dripping jungle, on a windswept coast, high up in thin mountain air. No other large animal on the planet comes anywhere close to that range. When one place turned deadly, we did the thing the specialists never can. We picked up and moved, and we built a whole new life somewhere else. This is why, almost alone among large animals, we ended up everywhere. Follow the trail our ancestors left behind, and it runs off the edge of every map. Out of Africa, across the whole of Asia, over land bridges and open water, up into Europe, down into Australia, out onto the frozen Arctic, and finally into the Americas, all the way to the storm-lashed tip of South America. We did not adapt to one comfortable home and stay put in it. We walked into every home the planet had to offer, and we made each and every one of them our own. Our appetite works in the same forgiving way. We are not fussy eaters, locked to one food that can vanish out from under us overnight. We are omnivores in the fullest sense. Meat, fish, roots, fruit, seeds, shellfish, even insects, all of it fair game. When the hunting failed, our ancestors dug for tubers. When the plants died back, they worked the shoreline for shellfish. A creature that can eat almost anything is a creature that is very hard to starve out. Every closed door still left another one open. But being able to go anywhere is only useful if you can survive once you arrive. And here our ancestors did something that no other animal has ever done. Instead of waiting for their bodies to evolve thick fur for the cold, or sharp claws for defense, they built whatever they needed, and then they carried it with them. We did not grow a warm coat. We took the coat off another animal and wrapped ourselves in its skin. We could not survive the freezing night, so we captured a living piece of the sun and kept it burning at our feet. We had no natural weapons, so we chipped stone into razor edges and lashed them onto spears, and suddenly a soft, slow ape could kill from a safe distance and stand its ground against beasts twice its size. We had nowhere to hide from the weather, so we built our own shelter. Think hard about what that means. Every other animal on Earth has to wait for evolution, for thousands of years of slow genetic change, just to survive in a harsh new environment. We did not wait. We carried our warmth, our weapons, and our walls along with us, which meant we could adapt to a savage new world, not over 1,000 slow generations, but in a single afternoon. Fire, clothing, shelter, and tools together made a kind of portable environment. Wherever on Earth we chose to go, we brought a survivable world along with us. And then we did something stranger still than carrying our environment. We began to carry the future itself. Almost every other animal lives inside the present moment, but humans learned to plan for a threat that had not yet arrived. We dried meat and stored away grain and cached food against a hard winter we could clearly see coming, but could not yet feel. We are, in a real sense, the animal that learned to worry on purpose, the one that looks at a warm autumn afternoon and prepares for the famine still 3 long months out. That knot of anxiety about the future is not some modern glitch in you. It is a survival tool far older than farming. And yet, none of that is the real secret. Not the wandering body, not the fire, not even the spear. Because here is an uncomfortable truth. You, personally, are not that impressive. Drop any one of us out into the wild alone, stripped of everything, and we die quickly, as we admitted at the start. A lone human is a weak animal. The thing that makes humans unstoppable is that we are almost never, ever alone. You can see this same truth wired deep into us from the first day of life. A human baby is born absurdly, alarmingly helpless, unable to walk, unable to cling, unable to feed itself, unable to do much of anything except cry, and it stays fragile for years, far longer than the newborn of any other animal. Left on its own, it would not survive a night. That extreme helplessness sounds like a catastrophic design flaw. It is the exact opposite. It is only even possible because we never, ever raise our young alone. A human child is reared by a whole web of hands, parents, grandparents, siblings, the wider group all together, because that is how our kind has always done it. An anthropologist named Joseph Henrich calls this the secret of our success, and it is worth sitting with for a moment. A human being, on their own, is not clever, but a group of humans, freely sharing what they know and passing it down through the generations, becomes something else, a kind of vast collective brain, far smarter than any person trapped inside it. And the one tool that makes all of this even possible, the thing that lets a mind pour what it has learned directly into another, is language. A wolf can show its pup how to hunt, but it cannot tell that pup about the terrible drought of 10 years ago, or warn it away from the valley where 3 hunters once died. We can. With only spoken words, we hand over hard lessons that no one else has to relearn the deadly way. The wisdom of people long dead, the memory of dangers no living person has ever seen. Language is how the dead go on teaching the living. No lone genius invented fire, and the spear, and warm clothing, and every clever trick for finding hidden food and water. Those were discovered in tiny fragments, by countless people, spread across thousands of years, each generation adding one small piece, and then handing the whole growing bundle onward to the next. This is the one thing that no other animal on Earth does. A young chimpanzee learns roughly whatever its mother knew, and there it essentially stops. But a human child inherits the accumulated discoveries of thousands of ancestors it will never once meet, and it gets to start building from the top of that towering pile. Knowledge, for our kind, does not die with the person who first found it. It ratchets steadily upward, generation after generation after generation, and it almost never slides back down to zero. That, more than anything else, is why we survived. Not because any one of us was strong or brilliant, but because not one of us ever had to start over from scratch. Here is the part of this that should humble you. History is littered with tough, clever, equipped explorers who marched into a new land, ran out of the knowledge they had carried in with them, and then died, starving or freezing to death in a place where local people, with a tiny fraction of the gear, had been thriving in comfort for thousands of years. The difference was never raw intelligence. The locals were not somehow smarter. They possessed something far more powerful than cleverness. Countless generations of hard-won, accumulated knowledge about that exact place, which plants to leach the poison out of, where the water hid in the dry season, how to read a change in the ice. Knowledge you cannot reason your own way to in a lifetime, no matter how brilliant you happen to be. That is the collective brain, and being cut off from it is often a death sentence. And to see how special that gift is, you only have to look at the ones who did not make it, the other humans. Because for the vast majority of our story, we were not alone on this planet. We shared it with several other kinds of human. There were the Neanderthals, stronger than us, and every bit as big-brained, adapted to the Ice Age cold of Europe. There were the Denisovans, a whole people whose existence we only recently uncovered from a scrap of finger bone. And there were others still, scattered across the ancient world. These were not stupid, shuffling brutes. They made fine tools, they mastered fire, they buried their dead with care, and they routinely survived conditions that would finish you or me off in an afternoon. And every last one of them is now gone. We are the only kind of human left standing on the planet, the sole surviving twig of a family tree that once had many thriving branches. And in fact, the more we dig them up, the more startlingly human they look. There are Neanderthal skeletons that healed cleanly from terrible injuries, which can only mean that somebody cared for the sick, feeding and sheltering them for months until they recovered. There are traces of pigments and pierced ornaments, of feathers and worked shell, faint hints of something much like art and meaning. These were people, in every way that matters, thinking, feeling, grieving people, with families they loved, and they still, in the end, did not make it. So why them, and not us? And this is where I have to be honest with you. We do not fully know. It may be that our knack for building larger networks and richer shared culture handed us a crucial edge. It may have been sheer dumb luck, a roll of the climate dice that just happened to fall our way instead of theirs. Or it may be that we never replaced them, because tucked away inside the DNA of most people alive today are unmistakable fragments of Neanderthal and Denisovan genes. We met them, we mixed with them, and in a strange and literal way, a small piece of them survived by becoming us. And since I have started being honest, let me take it all the way, because a story like this one is dangerously easy to tell just a little too well. Almost everything we think we know about the deep past is painstakingly reconstructed from fragments, a handful of broken bones, some scattered stone tools, faint statistical patterns hidden in our genes. The bottlenecks are debated, the reasons the other humans vanished are uncertain, and we have to be careful of one deeply human temptation, to look back at the fact that we survived, and dress it up as some heroic, inevitable triumph, as though we were always somehow destined to win it all. We were not. An enormous amount of our survival came down to simple luck, to being in a slightly less terrible place when the volcano finally blew, to catching one lucky break when the climate turned. And that famous old phrase, survival of the fittest, is one of the most badly misunderstood ideas in all of science. It never once meant survival of the strongest, or of the most ruthless. Fittest means best fitted to your surroundings. And for a fragile social ape like us, being best fitted never meant being the toughest thing in the valley. It meant being the most flexible, the most cooperative, and the best at sharing what you knew. The meek, as it turns out, were inheriting the earth the whole time, which brings this whole story home, at last, to you. Because you are carrying that exact same ancient survival kit around inside you right now, and the strange thing is just how often it can feel to you like weakness. Maybe you feel like you depend too much on other people, that you could not build your own house, or grow your own food, or last a week without a vast supply chain you do not understand, and 100,000 strangers you will never once meet. Maybe you feel like you lean too hard on your tools, that stripped of your phone and your gadgets you would be utterly lost. Sit with that thought for just a second, because it is far stranger than it first sounds. There is almost certainly not one object in the room around you that you could make all by yourself, from raw rock and raw plant, with no help from anyone and no inherited set of instructions. Not the phone, not the chair you are sitting in, not even the humble wooden pencil, the wood, the graphite, the metal band, the yellow paint, each one coming from a different corner of the world and a different pair of hands. You are surrounded, at every moment, by the pooled genius of millions of people you will never once meet. And that is not some embarrassing flaw in your life. It is nearly the whole quiet miracle of it. Maybe you feel like you are always adapting, always adjusting, never quite settled, and never nearly as tough or as self-sufficient as some voice tells you that you ought to be. But look closely at that list, because not a single item on it is a flaw. Every one of them is the exact signature of the one animal that outlived everything. You were never meant to be self-sufficient. No human being ever was. The whole reason your species is still standing here is that we do not survive as rugged, isolated individuals. We survive as a vast, connected, cooperating, endlessly adaptable web, every one of us standing on the accumulated work of everyone who ever came before. Your dependence on other people is not a weakness in you. It is the oldest and most successful survival strategy on the planet, running in you as it was always designed to. So let's go back to where we started. To you, alone in the wild, with nothing, as the sun goes down. You were right. You would not last long out there. But now you know the strange secret hiding inside that fact. Neither would anyone. Not the strongest person you have ever known, not the toughest survivalist on television, not one member of our species, ever, alone. That was never once how we did it. That was never, ever the plan. Nothing wiped us out, because there was never a lone human out there to wipe out in the first place. There was only ever us, all of us, together, sharing our fire and our food and our hard-won knowledge, adapting ourselves to every new world the planet ever threw at us, and refusing, over and over again, to quit. The strongest predators are all gone now. The mightiest specialists are all gone. The other, tougher kinds of human are gone. Everything that was ever built for one perfect world died the moment that one perfect world changed. And the soft, the slow, the fragile, the endlessly adaptable ones, the ones who only ever survived by holding on to each other, we're still here,